They are young and angry. They are frustrated and devastated at the same time. They are protesting and hoping for a better tomorrow. Iran is once again out on streets, with slogans, with posters that they are lighting with cigarettes. They are being pushed back, beaten, captured, killed, yet they are out on the streets, fighting for the future. A deepening economic crisis has made Iranians across the country come out in demonstrations since 28 December 2025. The fire has spread beyond the boundaries of Iran. Israelis are protesting in solidarity.
Here to say to the Iranian people that they're not alone, that we are with them. They are in our minds. We will try to actually spiritually be with them as much as possible. We cry with them, we feel their pain, and like them, we also hope that they would gain their freedom as soon as possible.
Some 900 pro-democracy Iranians from diaspora marched through Germany's capital, Berlin.
The Iranian government has ruled Iran as a dictatorial regime for at least 46 years. This is how Iran is ruled. People are put under pressure. People on the streets are murdered if they oppose their government. And right now, there is an uprising against this government in Iran. People just want to live. They can't live freely there. They are oppressed.
Several hundred people rallied outside Sydney's town hall to show support for protesters in Iran, praising a crackdown from clerical establishment.
We're here to protest, we're here to show our support, and we're here to make the world know about the problem and hopefully get foreign intervention, have the U.S. Intervene. We're really looking for Donald Trump and his crew to come in and stand behind the people because we've got nothing there.
But the West is watching, warning, waiting. Iranian protesters gathered outside the UK embassy in Tehran and lit a US flag on fire. Both Iran and its Western foes have described the current two-week-long unrest as the most violent since the 1979 Islamic Revolution that installed Iran's system of clerical rule, with no visible or acceptable alternative. The fire in Tehran's fury rages on. People walk down the streets of Tehran chanting support for the Shah regime that was overthrown during the 1979 Islamic Revolution. More than 4 decades have passed since that revolution that brought about the current clerical rule in Iran. These demonstrations were sparked by the central bank chief resigning over the plunge in Iran's currency value, accelerating inflation. People in power initially seemed sympathetic.
The government will listen patiently even if there are harsh voices. Because we believe that our people are patient enough, and when their voices are raised, the pressure that is being put on them is high.
But people were not willing to sit back and listen to pacifying words. Protest intensified. The Iranian president acknowledged the failings of his government that has pushed the country off the brink in the economic crisis.
People are dissatisfied. We are at fault. You are at fault. Do not go after America as the one to blame. I don't know, some other person. It is we. It is we who must serve, and they must be satisfied with us. It is we who must properly manage our resources. It is we who must find a way and solve the problem. It is we who must take the effort and find solutions to these problems for them.
When life gets tough, people on the streets tough enough to face it. But when everything fails, it's people who decide to push for a change, to implement the change they want. In the process, a crackdown over protesting people only ignites the fire further. A week-long protest later, the West started to react to what was happening in Iran. US President Donald Trump, in a social media post on 2nd January, promised to come to the rescue of protesters if the clerical regime of Iran shoots and violently kills peaceful demonstrators. The senior advisor to Iran's supreme leader, Ali Larijani, responded. The Iranian government threatened in its counterpost, saying any US interference in the protest would lead to chaos across the region.
I don't know why we want to link the economic issues to Israel. It's an economic issue. You wake up in the morning and everything is expensive, dairy is expensive, the dollar is expensive. What does this have to do with Israel? If we want to relate it to Israel, it's because the person who caused the price raise is on the same side as Israel. Otherwise, what does this price hike have to do with Israel? To come and stand behind this price hike.
US can't do a damn thing. We don't fear Trump. This has nothing to do with them. This is an internal issue. We don't interfere in their issues. He wants to dictate terms to us from the other side of the world. When it comes to our country, we won't just chant slogans. We will defend ourselves. It's our business if we are content or when we are not. It's our business, not Trump, not anybody else's business.
Iran is facing its deepest economic crisis in modern history, characterized by extreme currency depreciation, hyperinflation exceeding 40%, and widespread poverty affecting up to 50% of the population. The Iranian rial has plummeted to record lows, trading at around 1.4 to 1.5 million rials per US dollar in early 2026, losing nearly 45% of its value in 2025 alone. Inflation hit 48.6% in October 2025 and stood at 42.2% by December, with food prices rising even faster, making staples like meat and cooking oil unaffordable luxuries. Unemployment affects about 50% of males aged between 25 to 40, while energy shortages have halted half of industry operations due to daily blackouts. International sanctions reimposed on Iran under US President Donald Trump severely limit oil exports and access to global markets, crippling foreign reserves and investment. With that, there are allegations of chronic mismanagement, corruption controlled by entities like the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, excessive money printing to fund deficits, and heavy spending on foreign military proxies. Over-reliance on oil, geopolitical conflicts like the 2025 war with Israel, and an outdated energy infrastructure exacerbate the downturn. All these together led to the current crisis that has driven people to mass protest, and authorities have cracked down on them heavily.
اما اعتراض غیر از اغتشاش ما با معترض حرف میزنیم باید
We talk to the protesters, they should talk. The authorities should talk to the protesters. But there is no point in talking to the rioters. The rioters should be put in their place.
اغتشاشگر رو باید به جای خودش نشاند.
Iranian state TV aired footage of dozens of body bags on the ground at the Tehran's coroner's office. It claimed that the dead were victims of events caused by armed terrorists.
We have verified over 1,850 to be exact, protesters killed. We have 779 additional cases under review. And so this is an extraordinarily high number in and of itself. One death is too many deaths, but we have a really high number now.
The US-based human rights activist in Iran or the HRANA group has verified the deaths of more than 2,000 people during Iran's protest, including 1,850 protesters, 135 government-affiliated individuals, 9 people under the age of 18, and 9 non-protester civilians.
We have documented over 16,700 arrests. These are people that are being arbitrarily detained in sometimes unknown detention facilities, and they're also being subject to forced confessions. We have documented an unprecedented number of forced confessions in the last 16 days. And a number of 97 forced confessions in such a short period of time is extremely concerning.
Iran blamed the West, clamped down on its people. The internet was blocked, but people found their way out to communicate and continue with their agitation. Some Iranians used Elon Musk's Starline satellite internet service to counter the internet blackout. Though banned in Iran, Starlink, which beams its service directly from thousands of low Earth orbit satellites, is still working in some places in the country.
The jamming is by no means total. It does cover a large geographic area, but it doesn't cover the entire country or even entire cities. So that means that there is still an essential flow of information, even when it's active. It's very varied. And in other parts of the country, our understanding is that jamming isn't even there. We also know that people are able to drive up to the borders and get cell connectivity from neighboring countries, even from neighboring villages and Wi-Fi. So there are other alternatives. They're just slightly harder to use. So that doesn't mean that the authentic information does still flow to a degree. It's just being restricted, limited a little.
Funerals are taking place while protests continue. After the clampdown and brutal killing and arrest, the fire is smouldering. The demand for regime change has brought the exiled son of Iran's last Shah, Reza Pahlavi, in the limelight. He has declared that the opposition forces are ready to step in if the clerical regime collapses.
We have come to the point where people are just fed up with this regime. They are saying death to the dictator. They want to liberate themselves. And their demand for freedom is met with the most brutal reaction by a regime that is waging war on its own citizens. How else can we liberate ourselves when there's such degree of pressure without having, at some point, an element of backing and support from free nations that stand on the right side of history? Do not throw us under the bus by trying to negotiate or appease a regime that for 47 years has brutalized our nation.
But the exiled son of Iran's last Shah is not the formidable opposition or the alternative. The clerical regime of Iran has been under mounting pressure for a long time. But it has survived because despite repeated outbreaks of nationwide protest stretching back decades, Iran's opposition has remained fragmented among rival groups and ideological factions and appears to have little organized presence inside the Islamic Republic.
It's not as if the Iranian diaspora over 50 years has created a unified, integrated protest movement. It's very fractured. It's not united. The son of the former monarch, Reza Pahlavi, has become a figurehead, if you will, and has been trying to mobilize protesters. And in fact, to a certain degree, he was influential in these protests that we have seen. But I wouldn't overstate it. It's very hard to see how much support he has or how much support any figure has in Iran. I would say that Iranians are really relatively unified in seeking the ousting of the Islamic Republic, but not clear on what comes next or who comes next. He represents nostalgia of the past. He is an alternative to what they currently have, but might not be the number one choice for people inside Iran.
The Western America in particular plays a crucial role in what's going to happen next in Iran. The US President's promise for help for protesters has riled up the regime.
There seem to be some people killed that aren't supposed to be killed. These are violent. If you call them leaders, I don't know if they're leaders or just they rule through violence. But we're looking at it very seriously. The military is looking at it, and we're looking at some very strong options. We'll make a determination.
Since Donald Trump came back to power last year, he has first reimposed sanctions on Iran, and then in March, Trump shot off a letter to Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, proposing new negotiations on a nuclear deal with a deadline of 60 days. But Khamenei rejected the offer, saying the US is not seeking negotiations with Iran, but rather imposing demands on it. Talks started unofficially in Oman and Italy, with Muscat acting as the mediator. Trump claimed his team was very close to a deal after several rounds of talks and warned Israel against strikes. Tehran too expressed optimism, but insisted on the right to enrich uranium. And that, as always, has been the sticking point in the talks. Israel launched strikes across Iran a day before the sixth round of Iran-US talks in June 2025. The US bombed 3 key nuclear facilities in Iran, citing security concerns and the defense of Israel. Both sides retreated, claiming victory. This time, as soon as the Khamenei regime responded with a violent crackdown on protest, Donald Trump announced a punitive 25% tariff on countries trading with America if they do business with Iran. China, with 26% share of trade with Iran, tops the list of high-volume trading partners of the Islamic country. Annual trade of UAE, Turkey, Iraq, EU with Iran varies between 28.2 and 6.7 billion US dollars. India, at the 6th position, shares 2.9% trade with Iran. The Trump administration is not sitting quiet with punitive tariff measures only. West Asia is on the edge. Military movements, official warnings, and a strategic silence are fueling fears of a direct US-Iran confrontation. The US is shifting to a clear war posture in West Asia. On 14th January, multiple aerial refueling tankers took off from Al Udeid Air Base in Qatar, a key pre-strike signal. At sea, the US Navy has surged firepower, deploying 3 destroyers armed with Tomahawk missiles, along with an Ohio-class submarine across the Red Sea and the Persian Gulf. At the same time, American troops are being moved out of Al Udeid, underscoring how serious this escalation is. And that is not all. The USS Abraham Lincoln Carrier Strike Group is moving from the South China Sea towards the Middle East. Even before its arrival, the US already has enough assets in place to carry out limited but devastating strikes. Iran has raised military readiness. Its army chief says Tehran is prepared for war with the US or Israel and will respond swiftly and forcefully. Iran has shut its airspace to international flights, initially for hours, now indefinitely. Such closures are typically seen just before military action.
And the determination also cannot be bound. Now, Iran proved to be ready for negotiation, for diplomacy. We have proved that in the past 20 years, in 2015, in 2025, every time. But it was the US who always escaped from diplomacy, who cut the diplomacy and opted for war. My message is, between war and diplomacy, diplomacy is a better way, although we don't have any positive experience from the United States, but still, diplomacy is much better than war. But it is up to the US president to decide.
On the streets of Tehran, Iranians brace for a response by US President Donald Trump.
Mr. Trump speaks a lot, and he seeks to make the Iranian people kneel. This is a mistake. We will stand up to him with all our ability.
We gave them a firm response last time. I don't think they dare to attack again.
Since the US strike in June 2025, cities like Tehran and Isfahan have been evolving from economic grievances to anti-regime chants. They met with security crackdowns and internet restrictions. 26-year-old Iranian Irfan Soltani was arrested on 10th January during protest. A clothing shop employee, Soltani was charged with colluding against the country's internal security and propaganda activities against the regime. Authorities had informed his family his execution had been scheduled without giving any additional details. As international pressure mounted demanding justice for Soltani, on Thursday, Iran's judiciary denied reports that the 26-year-old was sentenced to death. Instead, the judiciary said Soltani faced security-related charges carrying prison terms only. After 2 weeks of protest, there is a lull. The sound of gunfire, which had been intense for several nights, has faded. The nationwide protest challenging Iran's theocracy appeared increasingly smothered. But the fire in Tehran's fury is still palpably hot. It's smouldering, waiting to be reignited any moment.